Hello, boys and girls and babes. Welcome back to the Janaea Talks Caps podcast. As always, thank you all so much for joining us here today. I know we're all very busy. I got, places to go, people to see, right? No, just kidding. We're all still in quarantine. So for today's episode here, we've got a bit of a tough topic this week. As former Washington Capitals winger Brendan Leipsic was making headlines for really all of the wrong reasons. And if you've been living under a rock for these past few days, I'm saying former Washington Capitals winger Brendan Leipsic because the Caps have placed Leipsic on unconditional waivers for the purpose of terminating his contract. We will get to that shortly here. But first, let's talk about what happened. So essentially, Brendan Leipsic, he was a part of a group chat on Instagram between himself and some of his buddies. Saying that he was a part of the group chat is probably letting him off way too easy, as it did appear from the screenshots anyway that he was basically the ringleader of this chat. So the group chat was somehow infiltrated, whether that was by an outside party hacking one of the participants' accounts, or whether it was an insider, a participant in the group chat who decided to go rogue and out his fellow participants, perhaps even for a financial payoff, given that one of the participants is a public figure in Leipsic. We may never know how the contents of the group chat were leaked, really it probably doesn't matter. The point is that someone released screenshots from the chat, and Leipsic himself has already confirmed that those screenshots are in fact 100% real. He made no denials in regards to the authenticity of any of it. So, what was being said in those screenshots? Out of respect for the women who were being targeted in the group chat, I, myself, I'm not going to be reading out quotes of exactly what was said. Just be rest assured that it was utterly disgusting, to say the least. So it was basically pages and pages of Leipsic and his buddies objectifying, insulting, and demeaning women whose photos they would post for the rest of the group to see. And then they would all begin commenting with whatever ugly shit their pea-sized brains could come up with. Much of the conversation was negative in nature, and much of it was focused on the looks of these women and upon how easy it was, that's in quotes, easy, it was to get them into bed. You get the point. I'm cleaning up the dialogue a lot here because, like I said, I don't want to add to the disrespect that's already been shown to these women in any way. They did not deserve it the first time, and they certainly do not deserve to have it reiterated again. And that's just, it's one of the really odd things about this story is it seems that Leipsic and the others in the chat, it seems that they didn't even know some of these women personally. They were just taking random photos of random women off of Instagram and posting them into their, sad little circle jerk of a group chat. So I don't get it. There's a lot here that I don't get about all of this. But anyways, there were some well-known figures being targeted in all of this as well, including the wife of Vancouver Canucks forward Tanner Pearson. Leipsic had also, in one of the screenshots, posted a photo of Tom Wilson's longtime girlfriend into the group chat. Leipsic appeared to be commenting on her as well. So that is sure to go over well. Like I mentioned at the top of the podcast, Leipzig's contract with the Capitals is being terminated. That's probably a good thing for Leipzig's health right now, as well as his overall mortality, given that Tom Wilson has by now no doubt seen the screenshot of Leipsic commenting on his girlfriend. I can't imagine that would not have resulted in either a hospital visit or a casket for Leipsic if he had walked back into that Washington Capitals locker room after all of this. So another Vancouver Canucks forward, Jake Virtanen, was also a target of Leipsic and the other guys in the group chat. Jake Virtanen is a loser in his own right, but that's beside the point here. Former Caps players Philip Grubauer and Madison Bowie were also brought up in the group chat, which is somewhat curious because Leipsic was in his first and only season with the Caps, and so he was never even on the team at the same time as either of Grubauer or Bowie. But then again, these guys are commenting on women they've never met, so I guess it kind of makes sense that they'd be commenting on hockey players they've never played with too. There's really not a lot here that makes sense. So Leipsic also took a shot at his most frequent line mates with the Caps, them being, of course, Nick Dowd and Garnet Hathaway, posting a photo of them in the group chat and commenting on it. This is in quotations. He says, "My line mates, could you imagine? Fuck, they're losers." So obviously, both Nick Dowd and Garnet Hathaway are universally beloved by both teammates and fans. So we can probably chalk that one up to Leipsic just being jealous that both Dowd and Hathaway had secured regular spots in the Capitals lineup. While Leipsic, on the other hand, had been an on-again, off-again healthy scratch. Leipsic, in the group chat, he also made multiple references to how much he loves cocaine, something that Evgeny Kuznetsov was suspended by the NHL for, so I would be surprised if Leipsic doesn't see discipline from the league in regards to that. And he also, he talks about getting drunk while the NHL season is going on as well. And listen, I'm not one to judge when it comes to getting drunk, especially not while we are in quarantine. I don't want to sit here and throw stones from glass houses, if you know what I mean. I started drinking at 9:00 this morning, right? If I'm being honest. And I am a firm believer that a mimosa or 5 with breakfast never hurt anyone, especially, like I said, not during a pandemic. So I've had, probably a solid buzz on for months now, but I'm also not a professional athlete, right, who's being paid millions to keep myself in tip-top shape. So there is that. And if I were Leipsic and being a healthy scratch more often than not, and having played for 5 different NHL teams already in only 5 years as well, because no one sees me as important enough to keep around, then I don't know, maybe I would cut down on the hair of the dog a little and get my act together, maybe take this shit a little bit more seriously. So anyways, there was a lot of shit being said during this group chat. And for the guys in this chat, bragging about their supposed sexual prowess. I mentioned, how a lot of the talk was centered around not only the looks of these women, but also upon how, supposedly easy it was to get them into bed. I don't think I have to really remind you guys of a little saying known as "the lady doth protest too much," or in this case, brags too much. You dudes are compensating for something. That's all I'm saying. And I just want to quickly touch also on the fact that for me, while it was certainly helpful that there was a Twitter account that was posting these screenshots for all of us to see what was going on, that's always helpful, but I do wish that whoever was running that account would have cropped out or blurred out the faces and usernames of the women whose photos were being posted. We really didn't need to see who they were, and I'm sure that they wouldn't have wanted us to know who they were. So next time, for anyone who's thinking of doing a little bit of investigative journalism, just crop out the faces, black out the names, etc. No one needs to see or to know that stuff, and it's not cool to post it. So that's just really a PSA to everyone. These women were already being objectified, insulted, and demeaned without their knowledge. I am certain that they did not need the whole world to know it. So, okay. So that's pretty much my feelings on that. So thank you for listening to my TED Talk. And now we're moving on to the hockey side of things. So like I mentioned briefly at the top of the podcast, the Washington Capitals are terminating Brendan Leipsic's contract. So let's get into that a little more here now. Now, first of all, there is the issue of Brendan Leipsic's apology for all of this, if you could even call it that. His apology, like I said, if you could even call it that, was completely pathetic. I've been kind of comparing it to that episode of Friends where Joey Tribbiani, he doesn't know the proper way to utilize air quotes, and so he's trying to apologize to Ross, and he puts it in air quotes. That's basically what Leipsic's apology has made me think of. He didn't mean it. He's not, the apology, he did not mean this apology. He's not genuinely sorry or remorseful. It was basically just a half-assed, half-hearted apology that simply was not even close to being good enough. And the part that bugged me most was that he didn't even apologize to the women who were being victimized in this group chat. In fact, he didn't even mention the women at all. He started off his apology by deflecting blame and making himself out to be the victim. And it was an apology just, generally filled with excuses and no accountability whatsoever. So basically, what I'm saying is his apology offered the Capitals no reason to be lenient with him. Although I am 110% certain that they would not have been lenient with him anyway, so it probably didn't matter. But you would have liked to see and to hear a much better apology out of Leipsic for sure. Even if the Capitals were probably going to terminate his contract anyway. So the Capitals apparently had a kind of a meeting of the minds in which all levels of the organization, from ownership all the way to the players, they got together, presumably over Zoom or Skype or something of the sort, and they were able to voice their opinions basically on the Leipsic situation. So everyone got a say in the matter, and less than 24 hours later, Leipsic was on unconditional waivers for the purpose of the Capitals terminating his contract. So that the Capitals acted swiftly in this is of great comfort to me, as it was definitely the right thing to do. Many would even say that it was really the only thing to do. The Caps, they're a tight-knit group and have been for the last several years. You simply cannot have this type of character in the locker room. Not only was he, his behavior was just, the comments he was making, not only misogynistic, there was some racism in there, but he's also bashing teammates and things like that. So you just simply can't have that in your locker room, and especially not in a locker room of the Washington Capitals caliber, where everyone, like I said, it's, they're all very tight-knit. It's really more like a family than a team. So the Caps as well, the good news for them is that they likely will not owe Leipsic any more money either, as it's very likely that his contract included a morality clause, which would allow for the termination of his contract in this scenario. Almost all professional sports contracts contain a morality clause. There are certain standards that you have to live up to as a professional athlete, because no team or organization wants to be publicly tied to a mouth-breathing asshole, as is the case here with Brendan Leipsic. As far as on the ice, what's the Capitals lineup going to be like with Brendan Leipsic gone? Probably not much different from what it was when he was here. Like I mentioned, he had been a frequent healthy scratch, but when he did play, he almost always slotted in on the left wing of the fourth line. So obviously, as we all know, the top six in Washington has long been set, with Ovechkin, Backstrom, and Wilson, and Vrana, Kuznetsov, and Oshie making up the top two lines. Lars Eller and Ilya Kovalchuk are also locks to be on the third line, with best buds Nick Dowd and Garnet Hathaway as locks on the fourth line. The fourth line with Dowd and Hathaway as 2/3 of it has been the best fourth line in the NHL all season, no matter who their left winger has been. So really, all that you're looking at is who you want to be, who you want as your third line left wing, and who you want as your fourth line left wing, between Richard Panik and Carl Hagelin. The fortunate thing is they're both natural left wingers, and while Carl Hagelin has been deployed almost exclusively as a left wing ever since the Capitals traded for him, Richard Panik had actually been playing the majority of this season so far on the right wing, with varying results. But after the Caps made the trade for Ilya Kovalchuk, and Kovalchuk proved to be a great fit at right wing on the third line, that allowed the Caps to move Panik back to his natural left wing position. a move that instantly agreed with Panik, and he was thriving on the left wing really all the way up until the NHL paused its season in mid-March. So with Panik having looked much more comfortable and being much more productive since switching to his natural left side of the ice, that is going to help the Caps tremendously, should the season resume at some point. In fact, playing at fourth line left wing next to Dowd and Hathaway, Panik has been a lot more productive, even though he's playing fewer minutes compared to when he was on the third line, but playing right wing. Ever since they switched him back to his natural left side of the ice, he's, like I said, he was playing fewer minutes as he's playing on the fourth line, but he's actually been a lot more productive. So sometimes it's not so much the amount of minutes that you get, but it's more so where you're being slotted in those minutes. So he certainly looks a lot more comfortable on that left side of the ice, and so it is only going to benefit the Caps and Panik by having him there. So this is a really deep lineup now, and like I said, you have the option to basically flip between Panik and Hägglund at third line left wing and fourth line left wing, and you really cannot go wrong either way, to be honest. It'll likely come down to who you're playing against on a given night, as well as the different situations that arise in game. It's great for the coaching staff to have that flexibility at their disposal. For example, like if you want your third line or your fourth line to have more offense, then that's the line that you'll put Panik on. And likewise, if you want your third line or your fourth line to have more speed or more high-end checking, or to perhaps be utilized as a shutdown line against the opposition's top offensive players, then that's the line that you'll put Hägglund on. So there's a lot of flexibility with this lineup, and that's usually one of the indicators of what will be a successful lineup. Everyone still has to execute when it really counts, of course, but most of the players in this lineup have already proven that they can do that, and you have to like this lineup a lot on paper, not only because of the talent, but also because of the diversity and the flexibility that comes with that diversity. So they're built for anything and everything. They can play any style of game, and they can beat you with any style of game. It's something that, that opposition coaches have complimented the Caps on a lot for a number of years now, is that they can play any style that you want to play, and they can beat you at any style that you want to play. So, it's nice to see that the organization is still making personnel decisions that stick to that winning formula. The winning formula, which of course includes having a tight-knit group, which included giving the boot to Brendan Leipsic. So that's pretty much all we have for you today, folks. That's a fitting way to wrap up the episode, as it was mostly obviously centered around this news regarding Brendan Leipsic, but we looked a little bit at how it's going to affect the lineup. And before we go, I just wanted to quickly read out some of the comments from some Caps fans regarding Brendan Leipsic in this whole situation, because we had reached out and asked Caps fans to share their thoughts on the matter as well. So let me just grab some of those here. Oh, okay, so heading over to Facebook first. First, we have got Ali, who says regarding Leipsic that he got what he deserved, although it wasn't meant for the public to see. The horrible things that were said are still not okay in any situation, private or not. He wasn't a high-end player, and it shows. Bashing teammates and disrespecting women is completely unacceptable. I would have to agree. Obviously, it was a private Instagram chat, but that really doesn't matter, right? Of course it matters for, people who are into privacy laws and things like that. I'm not a lawyer. I don't really know if any laws were broken by those screenshots being shared, but I think that, for myself, and certainly for this podcast, we're just focusing on the content of the messages themselves and what was said. And I would have to certainly agree with Ali that none of it was appropriate or acceptable, especially regarding, like they had mentioned, both disrespecting women and bashing teammates. That's someone that, you don't really have a choice other than to terminate his contract. So he did get what he deserved. And then we've got another fan here, Mel. I'll just read out their comment as well. This is what Mel has to say. So everyone has their own opinions about people. Some people find other people that share those opinions when they were talking to each other in private. That is for their own common opinion. Other people may not share that opinion. That's fine. Everyone is different and entitled to their own opinions. I'm not a skinny chick, and yes, it would bother me if someone said that kind of stuff about me to my face, but when I don't hear it, I don't care. So it seems it's okay to take someone's private talk and make it public and cause someone to lose their job. That's not right. I say mean things about people to friends in private, and it would not be fair for me to lose my job over it. How about get mad at the person who is posting things that weren't meant for other people to see, I'm assuming. It is not their business. So that was what Mel had to say. And then we've got Susan, who says, some people, no matter how skilled or not, are not meant to play in the NHL. He brought this all on himself. And, I would have to agree with that. It's like, there's a certain caliber of person, it seems, that, it takes or should take, or that it usually takes, to be not only an NHL player but a professional athlete. And we were talking about like the morality clauses that they put into professional sports contracts, right? Like there's a certain standard that you're expected to be able to keep up with, as far as not only yourself as an athlete, but yourself as a human being. So I think that some people, they can't live up to it. And I think that's kind of what Susan's saying here, is that you're not really meant to play in the NHL in that sense, because, when you're in the NHL, it's like you're not just a player, you're not just an athlete, you're also a role model, right? So all of these kids who watch the game, pay attention, follow the sport, and it's something that when you're a role model, you're a public figure, you're in the public eye. That's why teams have these morality clauses, right? Is because they want there to be a certain standard that their players are going to keep up with, and that they're expected to keep up with if they're to keep their contracts. So totally agree with you, Susan. I don't think that, he's probably entirely meant to play in the NHL. He's probably not quite up to that standard. So, and then going to the next comment here, we've got Robbie, good friend of mine, Robbie, actually. So, hey, Robbie. But he says they should turn off all cameras and lock him and TW43, that's Tom Wilson, number 43, and all the boyfriends and husbands of the women he picked on in a room. Hard to argue with that. I'd have to say I probably agree with that. And I'm thinking probably Leipsic would not do so well if locked in a room with Tom Wilson and the other boyfriends and husbands of these women who he was bashing in this group chat. John as well comments, keep it secret, keep it safe. Obviously that's again in relation to keeping things, in a private chat. James simply says, don't press send. I'm thinking that probably what James means is, even if you have these thoughts, that doesn't mean that you have to, type them out and send them to other people. And then Tammy says, reap what you sow. And let's see, we've got Ken, who says he should have learned to only be a goon on the ice. Allison says, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Lesson learned in grade school. Exactly, right? And then Yvonne says so many people just never learn that social media is not private. That's a very good point as well. Jesse says that no matter what someone's going to try to fuck you over in this day and age, but it was deserved because he talked shit about his lineys and got caught. Yes, there was a lot of crap being said about these women, but that's kind of something that's been a little bit skimmed over, I think, in the media, is that he was also bashing his own line mates as well. So, obviously that's something that when you're running a team, you're not going to put up with players who are bashing their teammates. And then we've got Michael, who comments or replies to Jesse's comment and just simply says, yep, should have just kept his big mouth shut. Again, hard to argue with that. And then we've got, moving over to Twitter here, we've got Chip left us a comment, actually just a GIF, that says, again, this is my good friend Chip, so hey Chip, and he left us a GIF that says, there is no I in team, but there is a U in cunt. I think that perfectly sums it up. So that's pretty much the mic drop there. So we'll leave it there. Sorry if we didn't get to your comment. But yeah, that is the perfect one to leave off on. So anyways, that'll do it for us today, folks. I do hope that we're getting closer to seeing some actual hockey being played. And just, closer to everyone being healthier and happier in general as well. So until next time, Caps fans, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. We're on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, on Stitcher, on TuneIn, on Podcast Addict. So pretty much anywhere and everywhere that you'd get your podcast from, we are on there. So click that subscribe button next to our show, and I look forward to talking with you all again next week. And as always, babes, it doesn't matter that we're in a lockdown, that we're in quarantine. As always, let's go Caps.